Mr. Chairman, honoured guests, fellow citizens of Rangiwahia, ladies and gentlemen. Twice before in our history we have celebrated our beginning. First in 1936 and then again in 1961. And I'm sure that both occasions are remembered with great pleasure by those who were able to attend them. We also have other days in our history to which we attach special significance: the coming of the telephone, the electric power and the paved road, and if we go back a very long way, I would think that the day the road was metalled to Kimbolton would be regarded as something to celebrate, because it did alter the lives of the settlers so much. I've also read of a day when the Prime Minister paid us a visit. This was Mr. Seddon, and he came at our invitation to see our roads with a view to improving them. After a meeting, he went to the hotel for a meal, and it was such a good one that he asked to see the lady who had supervised it, and he personally congratulated her. After he got back to Wellington, the roads did improve somewhat. Whether this was due to the excellence of the meal or to the justice of our cause, I don't really know. I wonder whether we might try these tactics today. At any rate, I think there's a lesson here for Mr. Marshall. And, sir, I would warn you that when the hospitality gets a bit thick, it usually means you're going to be asked for something pretty difficult. Well, anyway, today we add today to all these other famous days in our history. How this day has been looked forward to down through the years. It's not hard to imagine one of the first settlers standing on Richard Martin's hill by the sail yards and looking down on the youthful settlement, still pretty raw and untidy, plenty of burnt logs, and many jobs half finished. And he would say to himself, I wonder what it will look like in 100 years' time. Since then, the years have been ticking away slowly, and at last the great day has come. Because of the importance of this day, I felt very honoured when the committee asked me to propose this toast, because I felt that they were selecting me to be a speaker for the whole district. As I see it, my job in the next few minutes is to try and put into words some of the thoughts and feelings that come into the hearts of us all when we remember the pioneers and all that they did and all that they've left us.
Yeah.
Those of you who were present in 1961, when we celebrated our 75th anniversary, may remember that I proposed this same toast on that occasion. And I've been trying to figure out how I've managed to get the job again. It seems to me that in 1961, the committee must have considered me just old enough to get on the short list, because you must remember I was a very junior member of society at that time. Today, the position is greatly different. This time I think the committee must have said, he's not so senile that he can't do it again. Well, this is the second time I have done it, but I'd like to say that I've got no mortgage on the job, and I want to tell the children of Rangiwahia that if any of them think to organise another function like this in 50 years' time, I definitely will not be available to do the job again. Seeing this large gathering before me now reminds me of something that my mother told me when I was perhaps 9 or 10. She said that my grandmother McKean had a dream shortly before she died, in which she saw me addressing a large gathering. At the time I would have been about 1 year old, so I think that's a rather strange dream to have about a baby. The dream's been a long time in being fulfilled, but I think if my grandmother was here this evening, she would say that her dream had now come true. I noticed considerable change in myself in the last 25 years. Well, I suppose you all do. After all, even those of you who are only 40 have changed from 15-year-old teenagers who were hopeless and whom people said would never come to anything, and you're now responsible and respected members of society. But the change that I see in myself is more remarkable, really, because I feel closer to the pioneers now than I did when I was speaking before. Although the reason is unpalatable, I think I know what it is. My life is now so long that the gap that really did separate me from the pioneers now seems very short. And every year that goes by, it appears to get shorter. When I was a child, I used to ask my parents about the early days, and when I heard them speaking about them, it seemed to me they must have been living in the reign of William the Conqueror or Alexander the Great. It seemed such a long time ago. But when I work things out now, I can see that I must have been born only 10 or 12 years after the last of the bush on our farm had been felled, because I remember big rimu stumps on the flat out from our house that were still hard and sound, only the sap had rotted away. I can remember when a cleared paddock in Rangiwahia was a bit of a rarity, and the ski road was just a couple of metal ruts in the grass. On at least one occasion I can remember the county getting metal from a pit on Wood's place up the ski road next to us, and it was dug by pick and shovel and carted by horse and dray. I can also remember when there was no culvert where the creek crosses the road where Michael Burke has his birds. You had to change down, drive through the water and up the other side. And when we were children, I can remember us trying to cross our bottom flat, walking on logs all the way. Now I know there's a lot of people here much older than I am, and they could probably recite far more ancient memories than me, and they might be more interesting ones. But I'm sure you'll have to agree that mine at least put me in the senior citizen class. When I remember Rangiwahia as I saw it when I was a child, I'm reminded of a story I read some time ago. A parson in New England in the States was driving around his new parish when he saw an old farmer standing at his front gate. So he stopped the car and got out and said good day, and then he said, "Nice place you've got here." "Yep," said the farmer. "How long have you been here?" said the parson. "Always," said the farmer. Well, the parson saw that it was going to be rather difficult to have a conversation, so he let his eyes wander round the rather beautiful scene. Then he turned back to the farmer and he said, "Yes, it's wonderful what God and man can accomplish when they get together and work in harmony." The old farmer